Social media is always in the headlines. The future of Twitter and Facebook may hang in the balance, but one thing seems certain: people love their phones. It's a habit we're not likely to break anytime soon. A new book explores the way social media has given a voice to African Americans, reshaping the narrative and forcing change. It's called Seen and Unseen: Technology, Social Media, and the Fight for Racial Justice. Here to tell us more is one of the co-authors, award-winning journalist Marc Lamont Hill. Marc Lamont Hill, welcome to Black Renaissance. It's so good to meet you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. Great to meet you.
You know, I really enjoyed reading your book. You can see I have all my Post-its, Seen and Unseen. The research is just amazing. I mean, I guarantee folks will read this and find out things about subjects they thought they knew everything about. And you've managed to unearth all kinds of factoids. So kudos for that.
Thank you.
You draw a line from Ida B. Wells all the way to George Floyd. And your emphasis is that the image has always been a tool for racial justice. Photos and now video. Talk to me a little bit about that.
It's about a long tradition of people using technology and media to help narrate the story of America and to help fight for racial justice. Long before there was a video camera, there was a still camera. There were people who were telling the story with postcards. There were people who were telling the story of race in America with film. There were people who were telling the story of race in America even with drawings. And so we want to show how there's a long history. It's not new. The technology we have right now is new, but the tradition is longstanding.
Well, the technology makes everything go faster. I mean, I can tweet something right now and it will go out to, well, if I had 1 million followers, it would go out immediately. But it's a dual-edged sword in a sense, because while folks who are pushing for equality and justice, they use these tools, so are the people who are pushing against it. So how do we reconcile that?
Well, I think you have to recognize that the tools themselves don't bring a politics with them. They don't bring a value system with them. These technologies are just that. They're technologies. In the same way a book was a technology, but you could put all kinds of things in books, right? A stove, a microwave, technology. But
sure.
Different types of food could go in it. Some of it could be good, some of it could be disgusting. It's what we put into it. And it's also what we bring to it. In other words, social media and video and all this stuff, anybody has access to it who has the resources. And then on top of that, the reader, the consumer of that stuff also brings their own agenda to it. So for example, I could look at raw footage of what happened in Ferguson, Missouri, or what happened in Kenosha. Kenosha is a good example, right? And some of us would say, oh my God, Kyle Rittenhouse did an awful thing. He went there and he was looking for trouble and violence. Other people will say, look at this American hero. Look at this patriot who's coming to keep and impose order.
Which is what his defense lawyers did.
Which what they did successfully.
Exactly.
Right? They were successful at it. And so again, we bring different things to it. The jury for Rodney King, they saw something different than many of us saw. They believed the defense attorneys, again, who said, that's not somebody being beaten. Don't believe your lying eyes. That's a violent PCP-taking monster who would be destroying the city right now if not for those brave police officers. So there's always more than one story, more than one agenda. And so I don't look to technology or media as a savior in and of itself. Rather, I see it as a space of possibility. If we use it well, if we use it right, we can fight for justice and maybe leave the world better than we found it.
Well, speaking of using it well and using it right, there's a lot of talk about Elon Musk and his acquisition of Twitter. Right now, it's not a done deal, but it's a definite possibility, which kind of opens the floodgates. When you have something like Twitter, Black Twitter, yes, very, very effective. But when you combine it with everything else, it becomes almost cacophonous. You know, so how are we going to be able to parse out a thread and wrest back control of the narrative when you have all these competing narratives going on at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we've ever fully had control of the narrative, but I would say that Twitter, again, is a space, it's a public sphere. It's a space where all sorts of people have access to it. And in that space, you carve out your own niche. You carve out your own community. For me, it is Black Twitter and NBA Twitter and a few other Twitters. For other people, it's something else. So I think it's okay for Twitter to be cacophonous because what's going to matter is our ability to organize. What's going to matter is our ability to curate content. What's going to matter is our ability to produce things that drown out the noise, that produce a kind of singular overarching voice that, drowns out the cacophony. I think that that's possible. We see that with Black Lives Matter. We saw that with Say Her Name. We've seen that with Oscar So White. We've seen these, and not just this. We saw it with Chris Rock and Will Smith. We saw it with Kanye and Kim Kardashian. There's always a way when the narrative is strong, when there's a large number of people invested in it, to tell the right story, or at least a loud story. I'm saying let's tell the loud story, but let's make it right, like we did with Breonna Taylor. Let's make it right, like we did with Bring Back Our Girls. We have the opportunity. We just have to have the will and the motivation.
Well, Marc Lamont Hill, it's been wonderful talking with you. Highly recommend this book. Get it, Seen and Unseen.
Thank you.
Bravo. Very, very, very good job.
Thank you so much.
Again, the book is Seen and Unseen: Technology, Social Media, and the Fight for Racial Justice. It's available on Amazon and at independent bookstores nationwide.